Okay, Kung Fu Chronicles, we are in New York City to ask yet another 5 crucial questions with another Kung Fu master. Let's do this. Yes sir, Kung Fu Chronicles, we are here on the streets of New York City, and it is cold, believe me.
The Iceman cometh.
Alright, we're about to do 5 crucial questions with yet another Kung Fu master, this time Sifu Carl Albright, who specializes in 7 Star Praying Mantis. Now, listen, go ahead and do me a favor. If you like what you see, smash that like button down below. Check us on our social media to get all that behind the scenes info and keep up to date on what we've got coming up next. And thanks once again for all that great support. And make sure you stay to the end of the video so you can check out a few self-defense techniques that Sifu Albright will be showing us. All right, let's do it. Down in the Chinatown area, and we are in Bok Po Weapon Supply Shop. Everyone can see here Chinatown, and I'm here with Sifu Carl Albright. How are you, sir?
All right. You know, welcome to New York and welcome to Chinatown.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, for all the people that don't know, you and I have a little bit of history. Back in the day when they opened up the Brooklyn school with Master Julio Perez, we had our school, and you actually helped us get a few recruits in there, I remember.
Yeah, you know, because I don't teach children, and actually I don't take a lot of people from just publicly, especially new people. I always send them to the Eagle Claw School. And I know Sifu Julio for a long time. Of course, the Grandmaster Sifu Shum, been my friend for many years. And I always send him over there. So one of my students, Walwyn, his daughter actually went there for quite a while,
yes.
Kendra, you know. So there's a lot of pictures of her in that school doing Ying Jow Pai, Eagle Claw style.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I remember, you know, like coming up, you know, Sifu Julio would tell me a lot about your history, and you would always come to our Chinese New Year's and everything, and our Sigongs and everything. So I know you started like late 50s, I believe. You started training and everything. What got you into Mantis in particular versus any other style?
Actually, I didn't have a whole lot of choice in those days. My father was a colonel. He decided to put me into the martial arts schools to begin with as a kid. And Mantis was one of the first schools. So that's why I ended up starting with Mantis. Over the many years, I actually traveled a lot. Went to China for over 12 years, of course, Hong Kong, Singapore, you name it. Stationed in the military for 8 years. And so I got a lot of traveling, a lot of different martial arts experience. And over time, I just sort of kept coming back to the Praying Mantis style. And my teacher since 1969 was Master Jiu Lun, who had a school on Mott Street for many years, 166 Mott Street. And it was Northern Praying Mantis. And on Christie Street, we had a Southern Praying Mantis school, Jin Fun Mark. And so some people went to Southern Mantis, some people went to Northern Mantis at the time, and some people did both. So my preference was for the Northern Mantis at that time.
When you were in the military, I know you got exposed to a lot of different styles and things like that. Also Hung Gar, I believe, yes?
Well, I actually went to high school in Honolulu. And I was training with the Chinese Physical Culture Association a little bit. A bunch of guys there did Northern style. So I saw people doing something I wasn't familiar with at the time. And I said, who are those guys? He said, those guys are Silam Pai, and their teacher is Master Buxom Kong. So that's how I got introduced to really Hung Gar with Master Buxom Kong. And through him, I got to meet all of the Sifus in Hong Kong, Lam Chun Fai, and of course the Grandmaster Lam Chou. And to me, the Hung Gar style has always been a very good, adjunct to the Mantis style. In other words, like a yin and yang, northern and southern. One has got dynamic tension, it's really powerful. The other one is long range and stretchy and sticky, and that. So it complemented each other. So that's why those two styles are what I really do and promote even now.
Yeah, okay, and it's a good point that you bring up the actual traditional styles. When you did the fighting circuit, because I know you did that for a little bit, the kickboxing circuit, so how was that, and were you able to incorporate your styles into the kickboxing when you did it?
Well, what I did was I fought for 10 years, full contact, bare knuckle, undefeated. So I fought all over the world, including Thailand. So when people talk about how great fighters are, and I tell everybody, well, the great fighter is the fighter, not what you do, not where you come from. I come from the streets of Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy.
I come from Bed-Stuy, as you can see the two of they gon' die.
Where it is, at that time, gangs everywhere, like the movie The Warriors. Everywhere you went, there was a gang.
Warriors, come out to play.
So when I travel my whole life, I always had one motto. No matter what I learned, no matter where I was, it's got to work in Brooklyn. So when I get back home, I got to be able to take care of myself. So when people are talking about, oh, you're fighting a guy in a tournament, I said, that's nice. But what about the guy coming in your window to rob you? What about the guy over there with the knife? What about the guy that just grabbed your wife? How are you going to deal with him?
Yeah.
So, that's what I deal with. I deal with real life situations. So my martial arts is really, even though it's traditional, it's very practical.
Now, speaking of your Sifu, last thing I'll ask you, because you trained with him up until the time that he passed away, was he special in that he would actually teach you guys the applications from the forms?
Well, he used to spar with the students. So a lot of us used to get on the floor. We actually learned a lot of how to use the techniques by him actually teaching us and doing it real time sparring.
Nice.
And when I was out on the tournament circuit fighting full contact, I fought full contact bare knuckle. In those days, we didn't have any kind of gear, safety, whatever. I didn't even wear a cup. If I got kicked, I just got kicked. And the groin was allowed.
Grow those back.
What I would do is I put the onus on myself to try to make myself use a style. So in other words, I'd say, today I'm just going to use, hung guard. No matter what happens, win or lose, I'm going to do it. That's it. And I would go and I would use it. I said, today I'm going to use Mantis. That's it. I'm going to use Wing Chun. That's it. And so I would put myself under the gun, and it always, everything came out on top. But that's the way I was. I felt that to really put pressure on myself, not really on the style. I always thought the styles were always great. It's always up to the individual to make it happen. But I always thought that that was the real test. I never. When I got in the ring, I wasn't boxing, I wasn't jumping around, I was doing whatever the style was that I was supposed to be doing. And that's what I am trying to impress my students all these years as well. I don't want you, if you're not a kickboxer, don't kickbox. If you're hung guard, I want to see hung guard. If you're Mantis, I want to see Mantis. So, and then we continue from there.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to do, especially you've seen. I've gone around. There's a lot of tournaments. Been in tournaments for most of my kung fu career. We go, we practice the style that we were in, and then all of a sudden the fighting portion just becomes just kickboxing. Yeah. You're just like, well, what's going on, bro? You're a Mantis guy. You're a hung guard guy. Why are you not using your system? Why are you not using your locks and stuff? But
yeah, I used to make fun of people in the old days. I said, if you didn't have a T-shirt on, I wouldn't know what style you were from, because that's the only way I know what school you come from. And of course, there's always been exceptions, but it shouldn't be that way. If you practice something, it can be used, but you have to train and think about, how you can use it. It's not the technique; it's just your approach to it. So even the most simplest basic, technique that they would teach, like in Karate 101. I mean, if you're doing a reverse punch, obviously that's effective.
Sure.
I see a lot of times people get into fights in the street from the news or security feeds or whatever, and I always send them to my students because I want to know my students to see how people are fighting, how situations develop, and what are the reactions. And I tell them, I said, this is a rule I've always lived by. If somebody fights me, I might lose, but I guarantee you, everybody will know that person was in a fight.
Yes,
I guarantee you, that they're going to know. They might say who won,
right,
but they're going to know he was in a fight.
Right.
So that's what you want to do. You want to mark that person up. You want to make sure that when they leave, that they're hurt.
Yeah. And
that goes all the way back from when I was a kid. My father always told me that. He says, as long as you get beat up and let bullies bully you, then they'll continue to do that.
Yeah.
But if even if they beat you, if you just make it too much of a job for them, make it too hard for them, they'll just leave you alone because it's not worth it. They'll go pick up somebody that's an easy target. So don't be an easy target, And always remember that straight, karate 101 punch right to the face. If you remember nothing else,
Yeah.
Just do that. And I guarantee you that'll go a long way.
learn how to duck as well.
Yeah,
but your point is made. If you're gonna go down,
especially if they're shooting, you want to really start ducking.
right.
Ducking and start rolling.
Right. If you're gonna go down swinging. I'm totally with you. Now, really quick, if people do want to train, you mentioned your students. If people do want to train with you, can they reach you? You have a website and stuff like that? Or?
Well, I have students that I am now preparing to carry on and teach. I do have a website, sifucarl.com. Everything is Sifu Carl. My email is sifucarl@gmail.com. So it's very easy to find me on the internet. My Facebook, Sifu Carl Albright on Facebook. So, but more what I'm trying to do is, sort of direct people into whatever direction they tell me that they want to go in. So if they want to learn certain things, I try to point the way. So I'm not really interested in taking new people, but my students eventually will start to pass on the system.
I'll ask you a little bit later if you wouldn't mind. Maybe show me one or two self-defense techniques that make Mantis so unique. If that's cool with you?
Yeah, sure. We'll do a little bit of that, too.
Sounds good. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Is basically we are in Bucklepo martial arts store.
Martial arts supply store.
Yeah, it's a weapons store. And one of the owners here, sir. How are you?
Hi.
Okay, and basically you sell kung fu weapons, right, to schools and.
Yeah, we are a martial arts supply store. We have sword, staff, DVD, books, uniform, pretty much everything you need for martial arts.
Right. I remember personally when we had our school back in Brooklyn, I would come here, we would get supplies, we would get like the uniforms were in the back, the shoes, and then of course I would come here sometimes even on my off times and buy I bought a lot of weapons from you guys.
I remember you, yes.
Even through the COVID, these guys are still here. They're open. 63 Mott Street, Chinatown. If you come, just to stop by and say hi. And take a look. You'll be surprised what you find. Every style, not just a specific thing. You'll see Tai Chi. You'll see Hungar. You'll see Praying Mantis, Bagua. There's DVDs. There's books. There's all sorts of martial arts stuff, as well as uniforms, shoes. Weapons, training equipment, apparatus.
I'm gonna ask with Sifu Carl Albright. We're out here in the park. Beautiful.
Columbus Park. This is the like Kung Fu Corner in New York.
Yeah, okay, so we got, my segment is called 5 Crucial Questions for Kung Fu Masters. I would love to ask you those right now, sir, if that's cool.
Sure thing.
All right, let's do it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, in the old days, a lot of combat and a lot of more hands-on type of training. The Sifus had a lot of applications. I mean, they show you something one day, they show you how to do it, you're gonna learn, how to use it, and they constantly did it. And when we were sparring, the Sifu would do a lot of things. You say, oh man, I see it now. See, it's one thing to talk about it and say, this is how we're gonna do it. But then when you're fighting, then there's this is what you can do, and then this is how it's done. And also, they really wanted you to be able to fight. Because there was a lot of gang activities, people coming to school, you had to be able to fight and protect the school. And if you've gotten into any tournaments, they really took it as a loss of face if you lost. So it behooved them to, to really to do well to teach you. And a lot of guys, they lost, and the teacher wanted to kick them out because they lost, So that's why they look at it, it's not my fault, I'm gonna do my best to make sure that you can fight. If you lose, it's you, So that was a real big difference. Between people teach today, and then there's not the sport connotation wasn't there, the fun idea wasn't there. Today people say we're gonna have fun. In the old days there was no fun. There was blood, sweat, and tears. When you left, you were hurting, and we still loved it, and we still came back. Just because you're a traditional guy doesn't mean you can fight, And many people do traditional styles not for fighting. So the only way to learn how to fight is to fight. And it's obvious, it's absolutely obvious that the people that get in the ring, they didn't fight. They never know how to fight to begin with. So it's not a fair representation of traditional Chinese martial artists or whoever traditional guys might be. I fought, I'm traditional, and I won every time. So ultimately it's always going to be up to the individual. But as far as I saw, for example, I saw one guy, he's fighting the MMA guy Zhu that's walking around, going around China fighting, and the guy was punching Zhu in the face and not even hurting him. If you can't even do that, how can you win? I guarantee you if I punched him in his face, he wouldn't be standing there. I guarantee you that. But you know, that's the difference. I fight, you see, and these guys don't fight. So the MMA guy is a fighter. That they put the guy in the ring with an MMA guy who's fighting, he's punching bags, he's training, he's kicking, he's sparring, he's doing all that. You know, the Kung Fu guy's not doing that. And unfortunately, he's not training to fight. And if you don't train to fight, then you're gonna have a hard time when you get into the ring with someone. I know a lot of forms, over many, many, many years. And some people say, you know, why do you know so many forms? And I tell them, well, you're not always going to be young, number one. And because of that, the mental acuity that you achieve from learning and remembering these forms will stave away dementia, Alzheimer's, all this stuff. People don't think about that when they're young, but there are many, many people that die every year from Alzheimer's. And as the old saying, use it or lose it. They try to come up with all kinds of ways for people to use their mind to increase their brain activity so that they don't get dementia or they stave off Alzheimer's. And the forms are a great way to do that and keeps your mind sharp. You know, many years ago, they didn't realize that exercise was valuable to education and learning. Then later they understood that. As time went on, that's why they incorporated gym into school, so the kids would get out, play basketball or run around or do whatever to exercise, because that helps your mind. And the forms are also, you know, they go a long way into that. But also beyond that, the forms encapsulate the original thinking of the masters that created the styles. You know, they developed these forms originally based on principles and ideas. They weren't just movements thrown together, turn this way, punch that way, block this way. No, they were a way to physically explain principles and theories that the style was trying to teach the students, and in a way that you could do it and that wasn't so boring. I mean, they could explain things to you, but you know, it's boring. And then how does it apply to the physical nature of fighting? So the forms incorporate the theory and the principles of the style, and of course the record of what the style is supposed to be. The other thing is that the forms are, of course, they're good for health, they're aerobic and that. Why just do jumping jacks and push-ups and that when I can do punches, kicks, and blocks and help to refine my technique, you know, and keep my technique going and keep my technique better. But also, don't forget, most people, you know, when we talk about martial arts and they say, oh, that won't work, oh, that won't work, you know, they say, well, you know, when is your next fight? You know, most people have never been in a fight since they were in school. But they always talk about, you know, what won't work or what will work or whatever. You know, I said, well, you know, I remember years ago I was in a tournament, and a karate tournament. In those days, it was all karate tournaments, and I did a crane peck at a guy's head. And you know, the judges said, you know, I said, hey, didn't you see me? I did the crane peck to the guy's head. They said, what is that? That's not gonna hurt anybody. And I said, okay. And the next we kept going, and I crane pecked, and the guy's eye came out of his head. His eye was hanging there like that. And they were like, oh, I said, wait, that's not gonna hurt anybody, you know? So I had a lot of disqualifications, you know, coming up. I attribute the forms to help me refine my technique, to help me to practice my technique, and to give me the direction on my training. So I think forms are extremely important. It's interesting that over the many years, I'm one of the original Chinatown guys. I know the Chinatown masters when they were just starting out as teachers and so forth, and I'm very friendly with them even now. Wai Hong, Ying Jow Pai Grandmaster, Sifu Carl Albright, you know, Wan Jingming, Hong Ka, you know, Wing Hong Yip, Dragon Style, you know, you name it. I mean, I know all these guys right from the very beginning. So over the many years, you know, I've seen the racial part of the martial arts, you know, happen. Obviously, when I first started learning, Americans were not even, you know, allowed to learn. I went to a school one time. It took me a whole year to get in. And then when I finally got in, the teacher looked at me and said, because he didn't speak any English. And I said, and he said, wow, you speak Chinese, come on in. And that opened a lot of doors for me, you know. But what's interesting about that is that I've had people tell me that when they came to New York from China or from Asia, they said the first guy I heard about was Carl Albright, you know, American guy, not the Chinese guy, American guy, you know. And so I have been able to transcend a lot of that, you know, the racism, the stereotypical type of racism about a non-Asian person learning martial art. But even with that, I've heard people tell me, I never learned from anybody who's not Asian. You're not Asian, I don't want you to be my teacher. I said, well, you really don't want to learn, because, you know, if that guy's an Asian and he's not very good, you're saying that that's acceptable to you. And what you should be saying is that, no, I want to learn from somebody who is a capable, knowledgeable instructor. And if he's Asian, that's fine. And if he's not Asian, that's fine. You see, the ethnicity no longer applies. There was one time when Asian, yes, it was clannish. Only they knew it. And they didn't want to teach anybody who was non-Asian. But that is no longer the case. For many, many years, non-Asians have been learning the martial arts. And in fact, non-Asians support completely the Chinese traditional martial arts styles in the world today. All right? I mean, I'm not just talking about America. I'm talking about America, Italy, Germany, France. You know, those people support it. You go to Hong Kong, some of the schools, there's like 2 students on the floor. And then a couple of times a year, they've got 30 people there. They're all from someplace else. They're all from America, they're from France, they're from Germany, they're from wherever they're from. And that's where a lot of these masters make their money and get their student base from. Yes, there was a time where the ethnicity made a lot of difference, but, you know, not so much anymore. That's really changed a lot. I've been teaching since 1968. Many people have come and gone, and some people change styles, some people did different things. You have to remember one thing, that if you're teaching to better someone else. You're not just teaching for yourself. A lot of instructors get angry when someone leaves the school. You say, no, well, they have to go and find themselves, you know. Just be true to yourself, be true to your style, and try to have compassion to try to make the students better and make them the focus of what you're doing. And that's what really is the main, you know, the main mission for a martial arts instructor. The legacy that you leave, that other people can carry on, as long as that happens, then they say you truly never die, because there's always somebody keeping you in their memory, always somebody talking about you, about, you know, the old days and about teachers that came before. All the old masters that I knew that passed on, even my teacher, Jiu Lun. 1969 I first met him. He wasn't even teaching in the school yet. Then he started teaching on Mod Street. And over the many years, we became closer and closer and closer. Next thing you know, it's 40 years going by already, you know. And when I opened my school, he would come to my school and visit the students. He even blessed the altar with the incense. So he was still, as a teacher, still encouraging and supporting me, even though I've been doing it for, you know, so many years. And I understand that, well, you know, he really wants the traditional style and to keep going. And I think that everybody that continues to teach, keep that in mind, you know. Think about the future, think about what you want to leave behind.
So there you go. Another 5 questions answered from yet another Kung Fu master. Guys, if you haven't already, do me a big favor, hit that like button, just click that down there, let me know that you're loving the stuff. Share the videos, that's how we grow. We're only a month plus into the year, almost 2 months into the year, and big things coming up, I promise you. Okay, you've waited long enough. Here's some 7-star Mantis self-defense techniques from Sifu Carl Albright.
Okay, now in the old days, we always do this, right? But now, over the last 10 years, I don't practice this anymore. What I do is I have the students jab, so do a jab, like that. So that's the only way I do now, because see, when you have a new student, you teach them the straight punch, because otherwise it's too fast, they can't learn. So once they learn it, you want the person to jab. Why? Because every person they're going to fight is going to jab. This is where a lot of people lose in the traditional thinking. They don't start thinking about what the other person is going to do. So therefore, then they get stuck. And then when they get hit, they go, what happened? Well, you know, you're not thinking. So the style doesn't change. The way you look at it, approach it does. So now, instead of doing this, you do a jab and bring it back. Boom, see? So it brings it back. So now what I do is this. When you jab, you see? Now, why is that important? It's because of this. If a person punches and holds it out there, you see the technique. Guy grabs, he punches, all right? But if he pulls it back, it's going to be much harder to grab it. You may not be able to do it. But the praying mantis, what we do is we stick and we follow. So when he jabs, you say we stick and we follow. And I can do this all day. I can grab you. many boxers I had, no matter how fast they are. You grab it, I see, and it doesn't matter. Now the key to this is that I can't show the aggression. So in other words, I can't do this. Because when I come in, you'll make a move. You see me coming, you see? But if you jab and I do this, you don't even know I'm here. You see? And now I'm stuck. Now I can grab you. You see? So now once I grab you, now I can move. Now the first thing in the matches we use the hook and we use the wrist. Two of the main areas to strike with. Once you jab, and now I can strike. So in other words, this brings me in. I pull, which makes you do what? Pull back, which makes me follow. See, the same thing, you jab. See, where is the axis of the person's balance? It's at the elbow. You see, if I move your hand moves over, right? But if I move your elbow, your body moves. You see, so when you jab, you see, I do this. This is the hook. This is the hook, right? So he jabs, I hook. So now your body's open. You see, so it looks like. So now, Chanting Bo Choi is what it's called. See? So understand that the difference between, so if a guy punches and you go like this and you don't jab and I go, oh, so it's not working. See? So now, jab again. You see? So now I did the same thing. I went inside and I followed. See? Why? Because now I don't know if I'm going to be more this way or more this way. All right? So if I'm more this way, I do this. If I'm inside, see, so but you don't feel it, and that is the thing about the mantis. Now all the other techniques you can do, but the principle of sticking and clinging, all right, tagging and leaning, and that's what's taught to start. So when people see you doing this, and they see this and they see this, they don't understand what's all. They think it's just waving. Right. They don't know that it's actually technique. The other thing that we do in mantis is punch down. Yep. You say, what's that? Punch it down. So the guy kicks, I block it, and then here, we attack, and then, you see, so we constantly punch here. See this? They say, what's that? You jab, I pull back, and see, here, under. See, everybody thinks that every punch is to the face of the body. Right. Well, we do a lot of punches to the arm, the hand, the knee, you know, everything's a point. Right. And this is what the Sifu taught us. You know,
appreciate you, sir. Great. Yeah, that's the real deal. That's what I'm talking about. Make sure, once again, guys, that you check in on my social media so that you are up to date on everything coming new to the channel very, very soon. Check out a couple other vids you may like while you're here. Thanks once again to Sifu Carl Albright for being a part of this video.
This is Sifu Carl Albright. I want to thank you for watching Kung Fu Chronicles.
Stay safe. See you in the next round, and keep punching.